What up, though, everybody, and welcome to the Starving Artist Development Podcast, where we just talk to Detroit's cultural artists, discussing the highs, the lows, artist development, and other things that help shape Detroit's originality. I am your host, Gabrielle Carruthers. Today, I have a very special guest, somebody that I have known for quite some time. We actually went to school together. It was elementary and middle school a long time ago. But this gentleman is really doing some amazing things in the city. He is a journalist, he is a podcaster, he's also a screenwriter, and he is a cinematographer. And he's also a lover of all things Detroit. I would like to welcome to today's episode, Mr. Bryce.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. I'm wishing it wasn't so cold out, but it is what it is.
You know what? I went outside. It's not, well, for me it's not too bad, but that's also because I think I am premenopausal right now. So I'll take it. I will take it. It's not that bad. But overall, it's Detroit. It's gonna do what it's gonna do. So
Yep.
we take it in stride because as Detroiters, one minute we're like it's too cold, we want it to be hot, and then when it's too hot, we're like, okay, now it's too
Yep.
hot. I need it to be
We're
cold.
never
So it
content with the
just
weather.
we never, but I digress. So, welcome to the show. Thank you for stopping by and being a guest on today's show. I'm actually glad that I ran into you. I came across a post on the Creative Detroit website, and I noticed that you were one of the speakers. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to go support Bryce. And I'm gonna surprise him, and I'm gonna, bombard him and say, "Hey, we went to school together. But yes, I attended the event, and I got some really good footage of you talking during the event, and you had so much wisdom to offer aspiring artists as well as artists that are already, working on their craft. And I definitely want to say thank you for doing what you are doing with the city. So tell us a little bit more about what you're working on right now.
Yeah, well, thank you for that lovely intro and for showing up to Creative Mornings. It was really cool to see you because I did not recognize a ton of faces in that crowd. But right now, I'm literally in the Bridge Detroit office right now. We're a nonprofit newsroom for everyone who doesn't know who we are. Our whole goal and mission is really to serve Detroiters with news and information for free. So you're not going to see our stories hidden behind a paywall. You're not going to be charged to come to our community events. It's all about making sure Detroiters are informed and engaged in what's happening here. So right now we're planning things for 2026, really making sure that we work on that civic engagement work, kind of twofold. For me, a former middle school teacher, I'm working kind of on the youth end. Trying to figure out what is it that young people want to see, what do they need help advocating for, and then just making sure they understand how the process works and they make sure that they're a part of it. On the other end, we're working on talking to seniors and longtime residents through our Porch Side series. Instead of us inviting a bunch of people to our events the way we did this in 2025 and before, we're having them invite us to their homes, to their community centers, so we can talk very hyper locally about what they see in their neighborhoods, what they want to see in their neighborhoods, and ways that maybe we can help them hold public officials accountable. So that's what I'm doing right now for work. On the creative side, finishing up a couple short film projects. I actually this is gonna air. This will have already happened by the time this airs, but this Saturday I'm going to the premiere of a short film that I was the cinematographer on. So I'm very excited to see the finished product. Yeah.
Wow. Well, listen, what is the name of the film?
I hope he has not changed the name since we started working on it. I'm pretty sure it's Silent Night. It's a short film. It's like a dark comedy, Christmas themed. We had a lot of fun shooting it. We funny enough, we shot it when it was very nice outside, but it's Christmas themed, so you can literally see some of the behind the scenes photos of us like sweating our tails off trying to finish this in the middle of the night in the summer. But it was a lot of fun. Like I said, I was cinematographer on it, so dealing with a lot of different camera equipment, and trying to figure out how we're going to shoot this thing in a tight space, but we made it work. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I'm excited to see how it turned out.
Awesome. So, being that you are one of Detroit's cultural artists, and I know that your roots are stemmed definitely in the heart of Detroit, when did you decide that you wanted to become one, a screenwriter, and two, a cinematographer?
Yeah, the screenwriting thing, it's funny. I have always had an interest in film. Me and my older brother Eric, shout out to Eric. Huff goes to the movies. If you are on Instagram and TikTok, we've always been movie nerds, and our sister too. But my brother and me even more so. So I've always had an interest in storytelling and trying to write funny, weird stories. And I had already been working as a journalist when it dawned on me that it was like possible to do screenwriting in Detroit. There's a whole bunch of films that are shot here. You'll see a lot of them on Tubi. Uh, and because that ecosystem exists here, it felt way more tangible for me to like, take a screenwriting class and then just get started than maybe I had thought when I was younger. So I had been doing journalism for a while. I was looking to tell stories in some different ways. So I took the screenwriting class at Moolah Films. Shout out to everybody at Moolah Films, by the way. They are always pumping out content on Tubi and Amazon Prime. So check them out if you haven't already. I took their class, and it was maybe a few days after the class ended, they called me up to come into the office to help them on a project that they were working on. And really, it just took off from there.
Wow, that's amazing. So, you talked about the process of going through pretty much a fellowship program for screenwriting or a workshop or what's the best way to describe it? You went through a development process, right? Where you took classes, you learned how to be a better screenwriter, cinematographer, and become a better storyteller through Moolah, right? Now, by any chance, would you happen to know the process of getting your work featured on Tubi or Amazon Prime? Do you know like the entire process of how to submit your work that way?
I kind of do. And I say kind of because the process will look different for different filmmakers, for different creatives. It's and this is the same for a lot of creative industry folks. It's about relationship building. It's about networking. It's about knowing who knows who. Luckily for me, there are so many people already doing it in Detroit that it really was a matter of um, once I took the class, I had met people that were actively in that ecosystem. So it was like, all right, cool. If I want to get something on there, they can kind of guide me through like who I should talk to, kind of how to pitch. Or I just pitch them directly in that way. When they already have these relationships built up, they're like, well, we have this script. Um, these people in our class wrote it. What do you think of it? Would you throw some money behind it? If you're not going through people that already have those relationships, I would recommend just getting content and getting it out there in general. Even if you're just uploading a short to YouTube or my boy Parker, shout out to his name's Anthony Parker. Everyone just calls him Parker though. Or as I call him, Eastside P. He just uploads the short films we work on straight to his Instagram, so people can just see it and share it. It's not really about making money at the development stage. It's about honing your craft and getting eyes on your work. So that's another way you could do it, uploading stuff straight to the internet, YouTube or Vimeo. A lot of folks I know use Vimeo. So yeah, those are the ways that I've seen it done in Detroit. There's also a whole lot of people I know in the creative space who work kind of on the commercial side. So
Hmm.
they're these incredibly talented creative people that want to do their own thing, but they kind of look at it the opposite the way. They're like, if I can show someone with money that I'm willing to do this thing for them and I know how to execute it, then it frees me up to do the stuff I really want to do. So I would say don't shy away from any opportunities you have to show someone your work, show someone your skill set, and again to like learn. So for me, even as a journalist, I was PAing on a few sets here and there, learning what I could, meeting people, and not just like directors or producers, but meeting other writers, meeting people that work in lighting, meeting sound people, just kind of meeting people that are working on different facets of film. And it'll open your eyes to what opportunities exist. It'll help you learn new skills. It'll help you see that there's an economy out there for people with different skill sets.
I'm glad you made that point. And the word I was going to use was cohort. So Moolah
Yes.
Films, pretty much they offered this cohort development opportunity for aspiring screenwriters.
And
And
actors. They also have acting classes over there.
oh, great. Okay,
Yeah.
well, shout
Now
out to
I'm
Moolah
not in
Films.
acting class because I can't act. Me and acting are not friends. But if
Hey,
that's something that you
listen,
want to do,
then you should check out Moolah Films. I am not mad at that. Well, shout out to Moolah Films. I am definitely going to have to reach out to them, and we're going to have to sit down and break bread as well. So let's talk about your writing process. What is it?
that's a great question. I wish I had it on my phone so I could hold it up to the camera and show you. One of the things probably the most important thing they taught me in their writing class. It was like a 4-day class. The most important thing that they gave me was a structure for how you develop a story, right? So there's um, a lot of people use the terms interchangeably between plot and story, but they're different, right? The plot is just the sequence of events in a story, and the story is like what is it about, right?
Hmm.
The example that I think one of the teachers of class was using was Die Hard. It's like the plot is John McClane does all this crazy stuff and eventually stops Hans Gruber. The story is about a very average man overcoming impossible odds, right? If you boil a story down to its like basic what happens to the character, um, I think it's easier to think about what your finished product is going to be. So for me, they gave me what they call a story beat board. Um, it's just this document. I use Final Draft to write scripts. They gave me this beat board where it's just a bunch of boxes. I think there's 60 or so boxes broken into, your intro, your rising action, climax, like all of the storytelling stages. And then you just fill in what happens in each scene. So beat by beat, what happens, why does it happen, and then therefore what happens after it, right?
Okay.
um South Park, the cartoon, they use
Yes.
a similar writing method. They've done a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So they put up like these note cards, and it's like this happens, therefore this happens next, therefore this thing happens, and then in the next scene this happens because of all the things that were set up in the previous 4 boxes. So if you do that, it makes sure that your story is unfolding in a way that feels natural and feels like it's building towards something, as opposed to, and no offense to Seth MacFarlane, the Family Guy approach is this happens and then this thing happens and then this person says this
Mhm.
thing and then this. And when you do that and you look at the finished product, all of the boxes don't connect,
Okay.
right? It's missing kind of like, why did this have to happen as opposed to this other thing over here. So when you're writing and when I'm writing, I try to make sure that I am going beat by beat and asking myself why every single box. Why did this character make this choice, or why was this character faced with this decision to make?
Mm.
And if you can answer it in a satisfying way, then you're building good continuity, you're building a story that like logically makes sense, even if it's weird as hell. Like you can have very weird stories where your beat by beat scenes still make sense and still they still fit neatly together. For me, I often start my stories with just like a basic premise idea, and then I see how far I can stretch that premise.
Okay.
One premise that I worked on for the class was kind of this story about a drummer who is in a band, but the band is not really going anywhere, and he's very musically ambitious, as where his bandmates are not. And I was like, well, just how far can I stretch that premise? What can I
Mm.
do with that beat by beat, breaking it down into its elements? And essentially, I ended up with like 80 boxes in my beat board.
Mm.
Now, some of them are what I call and what a lot of other people call like fluff. They're just there to kind of fill the time in a movie, because you need some fluff, right? But
Yeah.
you don't want your story to be all fluff. You want there to be meat and potatoes, not just bun and bread.
With the meat and the potatoes. Well, listen. So your writing process, I mean, you pretty much have it down to a science, and just the way that you broke down the systems that you use in order to even develop the synopsis of your story. That is something that maybe even a content creator that's looking to create long form content, but in cinematic style, they would ultimately consider using that system in order to help them develop their story. So I've never even heard of that system before, especially as like a cultural artist content creator. I mean, I've always just kind of created based off of, things that I would see based off of my travels when I used to work for a third party company managing Starbucks food service accounts. And and also just the inspiration from each city that I would visit. Cincinnati has an amazing sky view. Cleveland has an amazing sky view. And then of course, our iconic Renaissance Center. There's something about when you come off of 75 and you literally hit Jefferson and you see the Renaissance Center, whether it's, to your right when you're coming south from the lodge, or you're coming from 75 and it's on well, actually, I'm sorry, no, because that's the music hall in Ford Field. But just seeing that and knowing like, okay, I am in Detroit. There's a certain energy that you get when you finally enter the city. You can feel its presence. You can feel the creativity shooting even out of the architecture in the building. And that's something that I actually want to dive into. So Detroit's landscape. So let's talk about that. So Detroit is a city that's associated with industrial rise, decline, and revitalization. But from a journalist perspective, what specific narratives or themes do you find most compelling or urgent to report about?
That's an amazing question. It's funny. I was talking to a group of students at the U of M has this LEAPS program. I can't
Yes.
remember what the acronym stands for right now. Sorry. But they're housed at Marygrove on 6 Mile, and I was talking to them a few weeks ago, and a student asked me a very similar question about like how do I, as a journalist, view kind of the decades and decades of Detroit being seen as this terrible, desolate place. And then now people from outside talking about this like comeback narrative, and neither are really true, but
Mm.
parts of it are true. And it's like, how do you wrestle with that? So, as a journalist and a storyteller, for me, the most important thing to amplify is people, right? All stories are about people, even when they're about budgets, even when they're about the weather, even when they're about inanimate objects like toys and monsters like Pixar does. Like every single story is about people. And if it's not about people, then you probably don't have a very compelling narrative.
Okay.
So for me, it's about what are the people of the city actually experiencing, and how do I highlight their words and their voice and their opinion over my own, right? Like me, I love Detroit. Been here most of my life. Born and raised on 7 Mile, West Side to be exact. um,
Okay.
yeah, but it's not just about how I view the city. It's about how do my former middle school students view the city, right?
Mm.
What opportunities exist here or don't exist here for them? So as a journalist, it's all about um, going into neighborhoods, talking to people, getting a diversity of opinion. There's a whole lot of people from Detroit, born and raised, just like me, who at some point in their development decided that they had to leave,
Mm,
whether for economic opportunity, whether because of the weather, whether just because the thing that they were passionate about didn't exist here. Uh,
yes.
Meanwhile, there's other people that live 2 doors down from them that feel more like me, where it's like they want to be here and they want to be rooted here. And both things can be true, right? So it's about uplifting the voice of people that are here and have been here and are invested here, as opposed to maybe piggybacking off of narratives from people that aren't here or don't have deep ties to the city. And that's not a shot at anybody who might be from across 8 Mile or Telegraph that has thoughts about the city. It's just, whose narrative are we trying to uplift and why? For me, I know my why is because I want Detroit to be the best place it can be. And for that to be a thing, I have to have those real honest conversations with people that are here and see it every day, as opposed to, uh, I went to U of D for high school. I had a lot of classmates that couldn't stand Detroit when we were in school. I graduated in 2012. So that whole era, there were people that couldn't stand the city, hated the fact that they went to school here, and now they're the ones telling me like, "Oh man, Detroit it's come back, it's cool again." And
Mm,
it's like, why would I want to amplify their opinion as opposed to the people that stuck it out through hard times?
mm. I'm so glad that you brought that up. Um, my sister, Jennifer Daniels, she is a cultural artist. She's a techie.
You
The
said the
recording.
last thing I heard was techie.
Yes. So the recording stopped. So I'm going to continue to talk, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to merge the
Yeah,
episodes, or I can do it as a part one and a part two because I still got some good footage for 20 minutes, and then I can do it as a part two.
got
Okay.
it. And then mine is still recording, so I think if I just send you mine, it should be
It
good.
should be good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so, like we were saying, my sister Jennifer Daniels, she is a Detroit native, and she decided to move out of the city some years ago to North Carolina. And she, simply moved because there weren't enough opportunities available here in the city. But once opportunities began to arise, she definitely came back to the city because she wanted to be a part of the revitalization of the city, right? And when she attended Detroit's homecoming, this was like some years ago. I think it was like 2015, 2016, actually in the same building where Creative Detroit now hosts their events. And I remember her saying how much she missed the city so much. When we were growing up, we stayed downtown and we stayed in this apartment building called the Lofts. So our backdrop was Belle Isle, right? So we saw the fountains, but we also got to hear the energy of the city during the summer in the middle of the night whenever there was always traffic during the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So during the 90s, there is definitely a sound of Detroit that still resonates with me even as a kid. And for me, I absolutely agree with you. When I moved to Florida and I worked for Disney and I would wear my Detroit apparel, I would always either get compliments or a lot of pushback about being a city girl from Detroit, because there was always this narrative that was painted around what Detroit was really like. I've even had people come and tell me, "Oh, I went to Detroit and I almost got robbed," or "Oh, aren't they always shooting people in Detroit?" So the media obviously has, paint a certain picture or a certain narrative of what Detroit has to bring. And now we have these people talking about, oh, Detroit is coming back and it's coming up, but it's like Detroit never left. Detroit was always here. The culture was always here. It's just we needed to be the ones to first access the capital to create the opportunities in order to make sure that these opportunities stay rooted in the city. The only way we're going to revitalize the city, the only way we're going to be able to continue to contribute to the cultural arts scene is if we're the ones putting the funding back into the city, if we're the ones rebuilding the ecosystem, or at least challenging the status quo about the city. That's why Tommy Walker started Detroit versus Everybody when him and I went to Wayne State. And he was working on his brand then. Detroit was getting a bad rep then, right? So that was why he was inspired and was like, you know what, I'm gonna start this clothing line, Detroit versus Everybody, because it was always Detroit versus everybody. But now
Still
everybody,
is.
Right. It still is. And now everybody wants to be a part of Detroit's story, right? We have investors coming in. They want to start buying up property because they see, okay, well, there's property, enough property to go around. So let's start investing or reinvesting back into the city so we can be a part of that comeback or that underdog story, right? But what about, like you said, those that stay down when we were down, right? When we were going through tough times, when the city went bankrupt, when we had, and I don't want to call him a corrupt mayor, but unfortunately, when we had the situation with Kwame where things got jacked up when he was running, the city and stuff, and we had to rebuild the city then. When Donald Trump talks about that Detroit is one of the poorest cities, but you go out into, downtown Detroit, midtown Detroit, or even these subdivisions in Detroit, and it's rich in culture, but it's also rich in heritage, is rich in community, and we don't talk about that, we don't highlight that. The only thing that we want to highlight right now is the fact that, okay, yeah, we have restaurants starting to pop up, we have all this city development starting to pop up. Yes, we have the Joe Louis Greenway that they're finally starting to work on. Oh, we renamed Shane Park as the Aretha Amplified Theater, right? But what about the little people like us that are in these little communities, that are doing the work, that are still telling and preserving the stories of the city, not as just cultural artists, but as change makers, right? And one thing I can definitely say, especially with you being a storyteller, being a cinematographer, being a journalist, being a podcaster, and just pretty much being, an all around and in between lover of Detroit, right? You are preserving Detroit's story because you said, I'm going to stay and I'm going to thug it out and I'm going to continue to rock with my city, especially being from 7 Mile from the west side, because as a black man, it's already hard enough, and the odds are already against you as a black man being from 7 Mile. But you have pretty much shown not only the city and not only your community, not only your middle school students, but you are showing the world ultimately, like, hey, listen, I'm just a black kid from 7 Mile and I have a story to tell, but I want to stay in my city and I want to preserve the city that I'm already in. I want to be a part of the revitalization project. So let's dive into another question because that was a mouthful. But when I get going, I get going because I'm so passionate about
Hey, I feel
Detroit.
it. It's also something I think I took for granted until fairly recently. It's
Mm,
probably like sometime this year it hit me covering the election. Us journalists, like, we really do get to record history and preserve history. Whether no matter how you feel about her, we have our first woman mayor about to step into office in January. So not even a full month away. And man, like, the fact that me and my colleagues got to like cover these meetings and these candidate forums and these campaign speeches and then the election itself, like, I really never will I'll never take for granted again how cool it is that we get to do that, for a living.
absolutely. So because you are a part of preserving Detroit's history, Detroit's cultural richness, do you feel that, and even just being here, do you feel that when you bridge your work with Bridge Detroit and your passion and creativity for the art of storytelling, are there times where you feel like you have to hold back when telling the story of the city, or do you feel like you can be fully authentic in your pursuit when it comes to telling the story of the city when you work as a community official with an organization, with the city, versus doing independent work?
That's another really good question. I do feel sometimes I get honed in like how I tell that story, but not in like a negative way, right? Part of the benefit of having an organization around you is that there's like there's the structure, right? And there's Bomani Jones, great sports writer and podcaster in his own right, and writer. He has this whole TED talk about the freedom of structure, basically, when you're a very creative person or a talented person, structure can feel like a shackle to you, like it's stopping you from going in different directions that you might naturally like want to go or explore. But what it does is it hones that creativity and it like focuses it. And I think for myself, especially since I took the screenwriting class, right? Like that structure allows me to like get the best things out of it. So when it comes to telling Detroit's story or helping Detroiters tell their story through my words or through something that I recorded, um, it takes me out of the equation, right?
Mm.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. There are some creatives that they need that. They need themselves to be like front and center because it's part of their process. Like someone like Kanye West couldn't do this job, you know, and that's not a shot at him. I remember when College Dropout came out. I remember when he started to go in some different directions creatively.
Mm.
And him believing in himself is what allowed him to do all those things. For me, what allows me to do these things is like believing in the people of Detroit. So yeah, it there are times where I'm like, man, I want to say this, and my boss is like, whoa, 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 before you do that, I'm not gonna tell you not to, but before you do it, let's think about what you want to get out of that.
Yeah.
And that usually puts me in like a better mindset of like, okay, I do want to say this thing about a certain person in positions of power, but is that going to yield what I actually want?
Yeah.
Or is there another way I can go at it? And usually there's another way I can go at it. And that alone tickles my creativity, right? Like, okay, that's the thing I want to do. This is the result I want to get over here. How do I make them meet? Right. And that in itself, there's an art to doing that. So, like I said, a lot of it comes from telling other people's stories. And that isn't always like a negative either, right? Like there are some really cool people doing great stuff in the city,
Yes.
and telling their stories also gets to that same point, right? So it's not just about like, man, I want to be the most vocal version of Bryce I can be and always be that same raucous attitude having person. But when you restrain that and you sit and like you like really like, all right, where should I focus that energy? Um, I think it gets some really cool results.
Awesome. Awesome. So I have a couple more questions and then we're going to wrap up. Let's talk about funding your projects.
Oh, yeah.
So, when you are an independent artist, and I know you mentioned earlier when you're, putting your work out there, you're simply just promoting content. But when it's time to get serious about putting your content out there and you need to produce your work, obviously it takes money to make money, right? And nothing
Yeah.
comes cheap. So, what are some creative ways that you've had to fund some of your independent projects?
Another great question, because as much as I can be very optimistic and positive and kind of like free spirited when it comes to funding, uh, you need funds to get stuff done. Like you need funds to buy equipment or at least rent equipment. You got to pay the people that are helping you with this. For me, I do a lot of my creative projects either through crowdfunding, so
Mm.
like asking for donations, which is the same as our newsroom, right? Like we're right in the middle of a campaign right now where we're asking people to donate, chip in, support if this is something that you find valuable. But to be honest, as a creative, like the way that most people are going to do it starting out is you're going to work for someone, you're going to get paid to do a thing for someone, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it's probably not going to be the thing that you want to do long term, and that's okay. Just get your foot in the door, get started. Um, Talk to people that are willing to fund projects. Usually they want to fund it because they want it to turn out a certain way.
Mm.
um, so, kind of understand that trade off going into it. View it as a job, view it as a gig. Don't view it as like this is the end all be all of my creative pursuits and talents. Um, and then you can go from there. It is important to have people, a producer or a financier who really understands what you want to do, even if the thing that they're funding in that moment isn't the thing you want to do. For example, me and my friends are working on a documentary. We can't get too specific about it right now because we don't have funds for it fully. But the initial part was us saying we can put up this much of our own money to make this happen. Um, and then showing that to people and saying, hey, this is how much we believe in it. This is what we still need to get it finished. Where can you help us? So
Yeah.
that's like one approach to it. Another approach for funding is um, pitching a project that is like very clearly just for the money. What I mean by that is, um, you can pitch a project to someone based on what they are already interested in paying for. A lot of the Tubi movies that you see, people ask me all the time, like, why do all the Tubi movies have like a very similar look and feel or a
Mm.
similar subject matter? Part of the reason, not the whole reason, but part of the reason is because that is the thing that people know they can get money for. And if you can show that you can do a thing for money from someone else, then they will be more likely to fund the thing you want to do down the road. As far as like the news business, I've only worked in nonprofit newsrooms. I've never worked in a for-profit news company, so I don't really know how they go about it.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I understand the business model, but I don't really know how they, like on a day-to-day basis, go about it. For us, it's provide a product that we view as a community service. Provide a service that is valuable, and provide it every day, openly and honestly, and and then people will come. That's how it worked for us. We launched in the middle of the pandemic. People were not trying to spend a ton of money on news, right? Um, but people wanted to know what was going on and they wanted thoughtful, independent analysis of what was going on. So people to this day donate because of that work that we did back during the pandemic. Um, and now we get people who donate to us because they're like, we like this specific type of coverage on that topic, and that's the thing I want my money to go to. And that is, hey, that's fine with
That's
me. If you
fine.
like
Yeah.
city council coverage and that's the thing you want to pay for, cool. If you like our arts and culture coverage, cool. If you like our education coverage, bet. So it's about finding people who want to fund and want to support those specific things. And also, like for a lot of creatives, they're building their brand with every little turn of the screw. Every little thing they do is like part adding to their catalog, so to speak. And you get enough of a catalog and people will become fans of you, right? They'll become fans of your brand. They'll become fans of the way that you talk about your art. And they'll want to support even if they don't really know what they're going to be supporting in the end. Because they're like,
Yes.
oh, that Gabby person, man, I like what she's doing. I'm gonna throw her some money because I mess with her, right? Or for me, people will be like, man, I really like these videos you're doing, explaining civics to people. We want to donate so you can do more of that thing. So that's yeah, funding is tricky, but find people that want to fund you and that believe in what your vision is, and it'll make the process a lot smoother.
Wow. Bryce, always a pleasure. Absolutely. One last question. If you can impart any wisdom on any aspiring screenwriter, journalist, or cinematographer, or even podcaster, what would you say?
Oh man. If I had to leave any wisdom, I'll boil it down to two things. Don't try to be perfect right away. Just get started. Don't like delay yourself like thinking I need to make a masterpiece right out of the gate. Because that's not it's not, A, it's not realistic, and B, it's going to prevent you. You're going to be in your own way, right? You're going to nitpick at every little thing and you're never going to put out a finished anything. Get a first draft, get a first episode, get something so you can figure out how to improve it later. Now, I'm not saying if you're going to, like specifically for podcasters, I see them make this mistake a lot. They'll put out a first episode, before they can even define what their podcast is, don't do that, right? Like plan, organize,
Yep.
be strategic,
Yes.
but don't try so hard to make this like amazing, perfect, everyone's going to love it right away thing. Get started. Get started somewhere. And if you're someone like me, I get easily overwhelmed thinking about like all the parts that I have to do. Just like break it down into its smallest components and just like start checking stuff off. For scripts, when I'm starting to develop a script, I'm like, all right, who are the characters? Before I get too deep into what I want to happen in the end of the movie, I'm like, who are these characters? Why should we care about them? Where am I going to pull inspiration from to kind of flesh them out and make them feel human? Just get started with the little parts of it. For podcasting, there's actually this really cool, and I'll pull it up so you can kind of see what it looks like. I did a podcast years ago when I was still working at Michigan Radio. And they have what they call a podcast blueprint, or I guess now they're calling it a project blueprint that they
Okay.
use in training. Yeah, and it's free. You can pull it up online. It's like a bunch of stuff. It asks you to kind of define what you want to do. Sorry, I'm like trying to scroll so you can see more of it. Yeah, it asks you about like who your audience is, what your goals are, things that like before you start hitting record, it just kind of helps you map out what you want so you can get the best version of that thing. But like I said, like it's just a place to start. So get started. If you're a visual artist, like, make art. Even if it's not art that you're putting out into the world right away or art that you want to put out to anyone except yourself, like start creating something and just have it there, hone your skills and then be kind to yourself.
Yes.
I make a lot of art that isn't great and it's easy to be really mean to yourself because of that. I think social media has a lot to do with that. But if you can just put a thing out there, like give yourself grace to be like, it's not perfect, but hey, we did it.
We did it, Joe. Well, Bryce, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. Where can we find you on the digital online platform?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at clones2012. I think with Instagram, if you just type in Bryce Huffman, it's
Yeah, it'll
probably going to
pop up.
come up even faster. Yeah. This is a really neat trick. You can just Google my name and find a lot of my work. That's an easy way. Like if you're specifically interested in my journalism stuff, go to bridgedetroit.com. It's all there. And then the Detroit Next podcast you can find on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, all of the above.
Wow. Thank you so much today, Bryce, for sitting down with us and for breaking bread. And again, I appreciate your abundance of wisdom, your sound advice, and also your creativity to contributing to the cultural arts community. So we are wrapping up today's episode. Thank you all for joining us at the Starving Artist Development Podcast. Of course, I am your host, Gabrielle Carruthers. For more information, you can always visit our website at www.starvingartistdevelopment.com. You can also shoot us an email at info@starvingartistdevelopment.com. If you would like to ask us any questions, or if you want to pitch yourself to be on the show, please shoot us an email. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel under Starving Artist Development Project. I'm sorry, no, Starving Artist Development Podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram, Starving Artist Development. You can like us on Facebook at Starving Artist Development Joint. And if you don't have time to watch the video, you can actually listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We would like to thank you for joining us today, and we hope to break bread with you all soon. We are going to continue to pave the way for Detroit's cultural artists and pay homage to them, one innovator and curator at a time. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.